This is Dave Palumbo with RxMuscle.com in the Iron Asylum with Chris Tuttle. We are here 6 weeks out from the IFBB New York Pro 212 Championships. We're here at Bev Francis Powerhouse Gym in Syosset, New York. This video was shot when Chris turned pro a couple years ago. And Chris, we're finally getting a chance to take a look at it. How's everything going?
Everything's going good, Dave. Prep's been going pretty good. I had a setback approaching the off season. I scraped a little cartilage off my left knee under my patella.
Ouch.
At first when I did it, I was like, I think I may have hurt my knee. And then an hour later, I couldn't even bend it. And then the next 2 days, couldn't even walk. So at that point, I'm like, oh man, like I'm just gonna pretend it was like my pec tear and just keep training, keep going about what I can do, and hopefully the pain will subside and I'll be able to do legs again somewhat to at least maintain leg size. And
sure.
So far so good. Every week's been getting better and better and better, and I still can't even squat 135, but I can still manipulate angles with machines to get pretty decent load.
Gotcha. Now, what did I tell you when you were 24 years old? You just told me before we did this interview.
Yeah, I remember. You told me, you're like, how old are you? I'm like, I was like 24, 25. You're like, well, you got about 4 or 5 more years of damage control. And I was thinking at the time when you're young, you always think you know everything when you're young. I'm like, nah, probably not. I'll be fine. But boy, I mean, I was using strict form. I wasn't using heavy weight.
Yeah.
And, there's something that's said about people always say that bodybuilders get more injured than powerlifters. And I think because, when you train to muscular failure, your mechanics become slightly off, and that results in injury. And that's what happened to me.
Or the fact we have no body fat. But what I said to you was, I said, from 24 to 28, you're going to be great. I said, you'll probably grow and put on good size. I said, after that, it's damage control. Actually, you're only 31 now. When you get to 35, you'll really feel damage control because then it really gets tough, and that's when all the injuries don't quite heal as well as they used to heal. But let's talk a little bit about this prep. I found this video on my computer. You reminded me. We never, ever did a voiceover for it. So you're a lot bigger, obviously, than in this video. This was right before you turned pro. But talk to me a little bit about, you've switched trainers to Chris Aceto. Explain to me how that came about and what made you decide to go with Chris.
Well, I'm good friends with Evan, and I'm friends with Jose, and I always talk to Jose about, prep and stuff like that. And, I worked at the factory plenty of times, and nothing bad to say about him. Everything worked out great, obviously. I wanted to change. And I've heard that, Chris is very on top of, the prep, like he's just, everybody who worked with him always told me that, they're, blown away. They don't even know what he's doing. It just seems to be working.
He's the technician.
Yeah, and I mean, and that's the main reason why. I wanted something different. I wanted to learn. Being my first pro show, I got to make sure that I'm better, I don't want to be the same. I think my worst fear is to be the same or worse. Sometimes some guys will turn pro and they'll come in their first show bigger, but softer and not shredded.
You're very hard on yourself, always. Every show I've ever interviewed you before or after, you always never thought you were good enough, and you always thought it was never enough. And so I think that's why you continue to improve so much.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I was telling my girlfriend, I was 10 weeks out. I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm like, look at these 212 guys who are 5'4", they're thick as hell. And I'm like, shit, man, I'm going to be like a tower, because I'm 5'9", and I know I have good symmetry, and I know I can manipulate weight to make weight and then fill up. But, I was looking at her, I'm like, I don't know if I made the gains I needed to. And you're partially right, Dave. I mean, one thing is the expectation, I know how bodybuilding shows can go, man. You could do everything you think you can right, and it just doesn't go right. And I know that. And I also know that it can go right in your favor. So either way, I'm prepared either way to do well or not to do well. And I think that's a lot of things that people miss. Some people just expect to win. They don't win and think their life is over.
Yeah.
Where to me, I compete because I love competing. It's a blast. And I want to do this as long as I can before my body gives up by 35,
Speaking about body giving up, weren't you doing some dirt bike riding, weren't you?
Yeah, I raced motocross my entire life since I was 5 till 21. I earned my professional status, actually, coincidentally, on my 21st birthday. I had enough points to point up.
Wow.
And then I did 2 pro races, and I'm just like, this is insane. The speed, the dedication, those guys are factory rides. They're 18 years old. it just was not feasible because racing motocross is more expensive than bodybuilding.
And they're skinny too. These guys. Had to be the biggest guy up there.
Yeah, I know. When I was like I'm in the pits, I had my shirt off. People looking at me like, "What are you doing here?" But no, motocross was a blast. It was one of the best times of my life. Great experience. Got hurt a lot, broke a lot of bones and stuff. But the thing about soft tissue damage versus bones is all the bones that are broken are fine,
Right.
but all the soft tissue damage I've sustained either racing or motocross or bodybuilding it still affects me today.
I'm sure that you're going to be really beat up when you get to be my age because you'll feel all those injuries that you have, but you're not really that conscious of right now.
Right.
You feel them. Let's talk about the prep because Chris obviously has a slightly different approach to other trainers. I know he doesn't really believe in a lot of cardio, especially for guys with fast metabolisms like you. Did you feel that the prep, or do you feel that the prep is easier than you've done in the past?
It's probably the easiest prep I've ever done. I always expect to suffer bad, and I always expect to do I've never done a prep before where I haven't done an hour and a half of cardio or more. Like I'm only at 40 minutes, 45 minutes fasting, and that just started this week. Before that, it was 30 minutes post-workout, but Chris cut it out, and he goes, no more cardio.
Really?
And then it was like that for a while, and then it was random hour session fasting, and then that was it for the week. But I check in with him 3 or 4 times a week, and things change, could change any 2 days, but it's been totally different, which is sometimes totally a mind fuck because sometimes people tend to compare the prep to their last prep and be like, this is wrong because the last prep I did this, but
right.
Obviously you can't do that.
Sure.
Because every time it's different. But I love it. I have a lot more energy to train in the gym. That's for sure.
Does Chris ever say to you, go eat a piece of pizza?
No, he does muffins. We do muffins.
Muffins. Oh, he likes muffins. Okay.
Yeah, I do the muffins. That first time I was like, a muffin? He's like, yeah, like a blueberry muffin. I'm like from Dunkin' Donuts? He goes, yeah, shit muffin from Dunkin' Donuts.
What about what has your cardio been like going into this show? I know you said it's been sporadic, but what kind of sessions has you doing? High intensity, low intensity?
Well, it first started with easy pace cardio, 30 minutes post-workout, and then it was 40 minutes faster pace cardio, fasting on non-training days. But that only happened for a week, and that was 2 weeks ago. And then he cut it out. So in reality, so far this entire prep, I probably only have done 8 sessions of cardio.
Wow, that's amazing.
And then now it's just 45 minutes I've done every day. I did Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Yeah, so every day this week I've done cardio in the morning fasting, and now this is the first week that I've been consistently doing it. But then again, because of my knee, I can't do the typical cardio that I used to. I was actually going to attempt to do a swimming pool and get cardio in, so I would have to avoid the repetitiveness in my knee. But the arc trainer at my gym I put the incline really low so I can sway my legs without bending my knee, and I jack the resistance up so I can use my hamstrings and my glutes to push and my quads to stabilize my knee. And I'm able to do pretty good cardio at a good pace without ever aggravating my knee.
I hate to say it because I don't really recommend this ever, but you might want to get a cortisone shot because...
And that's what my dad says. Well, you know what? My dad says, he goes, well, you're going to get a cortisone shot, and knowing you're going to feel like you're great, and then you're going to put more weight on, and you're going to hurt it.
Well, if you just scrape some cartilage, it's probably a lot of inflammation in there, and that's what's causing the problems. Let me just ask you this question because, a lot of guys, when they decide to make their pro debut, they kind of sit down and strategically figure out what show they want to do, where they can do the best. Obviously, New York Pro is a very tough show.
Right.
It's notoriously had a tough 212 lineup. What made you decide to make that your pro debut? Is it just a locality thing, or is it something you always wanted to do?
It's something I always wanted to do. Evan recommended I should do it. It's fun to do my first, pro show closer to home, where it's a little bit less stress about having to travel to Toronto or travel across the state, across the country. I mean, but that's the real main reason, and the timeline. Like I said, Dave. I'm not really chasing trophies. Obviously, sometimes it's appropriate to stick to a level of a caliber of guys that you belong, and then work your way up. But sometimes I don't always see it that way. When I did nationals, I didn't think I was praying to get top 5 when I did it.
You're funny.
And it worked. So I don't really look at that too much that way. I thought about doing, I asked Chris if you think I should do a couple more shows through the summer because I was prepared to do that.
Yeah.
And obviously, Chris's response, most coaches would say, first show first, then we'll decide what we're going to do.
Right. All right. Well, it sounds like you got your act together. Do you have the belief or are the belief that when you are getting ready for a show that you continue to train heavy, or do you lighten up your loads? How do you feel about your training intensity?
I feel that whatever built the muscle is going to keep the muscle outside of doing foolish things like trying to break a record.
Right.
I mean, I'm not in the gym. I never train below 8 reps ever. So I will stick with, the same routine, the same rep range and things I would normally do. I mean, sometimes I might be like, my lower back's feeling a little funny today. I'm going to skip the barbell row and do a T-bar row with a chest support. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I might do things like that. But as far as rep range, the same, weight the same. I might move at a faster pace. I mean, I notice that, the better shape I am, the less weight I have in my body, I can crank out 5 exercises for back in an hour.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's one thing that probably changes the most is my stamina gets better and I'm able to move at a faster pace. And most importantly, I don't get sleep apnea.
Yeah, that's definitely, and I noticed that too when I used to get much lighter. You breathe better.
Yeah, and then the thing is I sleep better. I sleep 4 hours a night and I'm fine. Or in the off season I'm sleeping 10, but I'm always tired.
Right. What about posing? How much time I know you got Kenny Wallach up there where you guys can take advantage of. How much posing time are you putting in per day?
Honestly, not too much yet. I'm about to start really cranking it every day. Aceto has me take pictures at least 4 times a week, so I make it a point to go through all the poses every time we do pictures and then look at the pictures to make sure I'm hitting them right. But I mean, so many times, you think you're doing the pose right, and you look at the picture, you're like, what the hell am I doing? So believe it or not, I think it's Chris has helped me with posing too, because every time I do the pictures, I'm like, geez, I look like a jackass. I gotta fix that.
Yeah.
And I'm more conscious and aware of it. But I got Kenny booked up the next 3 weeks because it's good. It's sometimes getting to pose yourself by yourself is hard.
Right.
But having somebody stand there, give their opinion, critique you under hot lights for an hour is a good thing.
Yeah, it forces you to do what you don't really want to do, especially when you get down to that last 6 weeks. No one wants to pose. I mean, anyone who says they want to pose is lying.
Yeah, I definitely never want to pose.
Well, it looks like you got all your bases covered. It looks like this will be a successful pro debut for you. We don't know who's going to be in that lineup yet, but I'm sure it's going to be stacked to the hilt. And Chris, we're rooting for you, and I want to see you do well for your pro debut and make a real name for yourself in the pro division.
Awesome. Thanks, Dave.
We are out of time for now. I'm Dave Palumbo with Chris Tuttle in the Iron Asylum.